Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back to DSG Talks. It's another episode of season 6. I welcome you all and Ramadan Kareem to all the Muslims celebrating. So as you can see, today we are out of our studio, and for a very special guest we're here. So since आप लोगों को पता है कि DSG Talk में there's one topic which is really close to my heart, and it's environment, climate awareness. So I decided to talk on it in this season as well. अभी तक हम लोगों ने electricity पे बात की, हमने industries पे बात की. So I decided कि now we need to talk about the most important part as well, that is climate, and it's a time for climate action. So we need to talk about it. So I have with myself an amazing guest today from the amazing foundation that's working in Pakistan from years and doing wonders, WWF. So I have with myself Ms. Nazifa. She's the Senior Manager Climate and Energy Program. She has ample experience in the field of environment and has been working for climate change awareness and whatnot. She has also recently been to COP27 as well. So without any delay, today I'll hop on the topic, which is that the need for climate action and how it connects to us, how there's a need for sustainable energy as well. So how are you, Nazifa?
I'm good. How are you, An?
I'm great. So thank you so much for taking out time. Finally, it's been quite a long.
It was a tedious task to get hold of me.
Exactly. So first of all, thank you for being here. And I was just telling the people that I am a fan of the work of WWF, how you guys have been working in this country for many years. There are many amazing projects that you guys are heading. Apart from, as we'll talk about the climate today as well, the one topic that I'm very interested in is the COP27. You've been to it. It was the highlight of the environment ki baat kar liye, climate ki baat kar liye. Everybody was talking about it. So how has the experience been?
I think COPs are basically created to bring the global community together at one platform to discuss issues that are affecting the entire world. Mm-hmm. So you get global, stakeholders from different parties. Parties is the countries. So about 198 countries participate every year. Mm-hmm. And I think it was a brilliant experience because there were some game-changing decisions that were passed out in this COP. But previously, one of the turning points in COP was the decision for Paris Agreement, which was made in the COP21 in 2015, where 196 different countries agreed that, we will make sure that, the temperatures remain well below 2 degrees Celsius, because that the effect of global warming is, outrageously increasing. So it was important that the countries came together and they unified themselves towards efforts towards climate action. Yes.
Perfect. So we were having a conversation earlier as well, and you mentioned that Pakistan was there in the headlines, unfortunately, because of the fact that we've seen drastic floods last year. So what was the viewpoint of everyone? What was the way forward that was suggested to tackle it in the coming years?
So yes, I think the floods of 22 was a major case study that was presented, and it was taken up at different sessions also. The Minister of Climate Change, Sherry Rahman, she was also chairing G77 in China, which is the group which comprises of countries which are the poorest countries in the world. Mm-hmm. And they are the ones that need a lot of fund in terms of adaptation, mitigation and loss and damage after the disasters that have occurred. And if I may quote here that, in Pakistan, we had huge losses. We had droughts also, we had floods, we had GLOF, like glacial meltdowns last year. So it was last year in Pakistan, that was year of climate disasters for Pakistan. But fortunately, Pakistan, the government and the different stakeholders that went from the country, they tried to sort of leverage this case and push the agenda of loss and damage forward and sensitize people why climate finance is important, why we need to take urgent action and release those funds, because the funds which were agreed, which was like about $100 billion, which was released, agreed upon in the Paris Agreement, has still not been disbursed completely. So we're still waiting for that fund. But there is, the good part is that there were some major decisions here. The funding mechanism for the loss and damage has been established now.
I'm looking forward that these funds actually go through and something happens. But what the positive part of the picture is that now actually people are talking about it.
Yes.
Like I can relate to it. If we talk about 2-3 years back, अगर हम पाकिस्तान में बात करते थे कि भाई climate change is happening or something is like that, so people would have been like, it's a bizarre concept, it's just something bookish, it's not going to happen. But it's very alarming that right now we're seeing it. I don't think so we have seen this prolonged winter, spring. I don't know what season this is.
Actually, now we just have 2 seasons. It's winter and it's summers directly. There's no spring, there's no autumn as such.
Exactly, and that's very evident that okay, it's happening now. We need to do something.
Definitely.
So, as you mentioned your experience, you mentioned how Pakistan is in the headlines as well, how there needs to be done, how policies have been passed. So, coming to the WWF perspective, you guys have been doing a tremendous job previously as well. So, in the light of these learnings, what are we looking at? What is the new thing coming up under the flagship of WWF?
So I'll start with I'll give you a little background. Okay, so WWF has been there in Pakistan for the past 52 years.
Exactly.
So we just celebrated the 50-year celebration this year because, because of COVID, we couldn't do that during that time. So yes, we have been, doing the conservation and protection of the nature and the habitat of species. But at the same time, we have been making a lot of progress on the industry side. When we talk about the brown issues, when we talk about solid waste, plastics elimination, when we talk about greenhouse gas emission reduction. So we have been doing a lot of work in those regards. So we are continuously in touch with the corporate sector for improving their and making their processes efficient in terms of energy, in terms of water usage. So yes, WWF has been there for the past 50 years plus, and we just celebrated the 50 years celebration in February. I think we have been not only conserving nature and the habitat of species, but now we have drastically moved towards the industrial side where the actual emissions are coming out. So we are very closely working with the private sector and helping them cut down their greenhouse gas emissions in terms of making their processes more energy efficient, water efficient, working on plastics and improving the recycling. We established an alliance with the help of Nestle. It's the Core Alliance, which is a combination of different companies, major producers of plastics and the recyclers and distributors. Nice. And the aim is to sort of improve the recycling rates, and by improving the recycling rates, you're actually cutting down the emissions. Also, we are heading the TNC, the Third National Communication, which has to be submitted to UNFCCC. The idea is to actually make sure that whatever is the adaptation plans and the climate change policy being implemented in Pakistan, how is it going to be implemented? What are the frameworks that we'll be following? What are the progress in terms of greenhouse gas inventories for every sector? So that is what we're working on at the moment. We're also under the Green Office Initiative, which is a flagship program of WWF Pakistan. Since the past 12 years, we have been helping the private sector cut down on the greenhouse gas emissions through reduction in the different natural resources, and we promote renewable energy in every office. So we talk about energy efficiency and conservation and promoting green energy. So we suggest and encourage companies to get on to green energy in terms of wind and solar wherever those companies and those offices are. And mashallah, a lot of companies have completely opted for solar. Like I'll mention JS Bank here as well. They more than 100 branches of JS Bank have gone to solar. And so is the case with Al-Falah is next in line. Mizan is next in line. So there are a lot of companies who are working with us, and they're doing like massive work on clean energy as well. And at the same time, since we're talking about COP, WWF Pakistan, in the light of the 2022 floods, we developed a climate charter. Now that climate charter was the need of the hour because it actually addresses the gaps, what needs to be done. So the first thing and the most important thing that the climate charter says is that you need to have a nationwide complete risk and vulnerability assessment of the country and make sure that the disadvantaged and the vulnerable communities are put on track, and they are also the part and they are also under the limelight because they are the ones who are the neglected communities. I mean, I was like actually shocked by the figure that about 44% of Pakistan's community is on off-grid. Exactly. They don't have energy access.
It's like a concept you have died how they're living.
Yes, and there's a huge, like you go to South Punjab, interior Sindh, you'll find those. Like I personally have been to those places, and it is mind-blowing to see how those people are surviving. So those are the areas and room for improvement and potential for the green energy as well.
Bilkul. Plus, on the energy part, I am from South Punjab, so I've seen it seen it by eyes that even in these such metropolitan cities, we have moved past the concept of load shedding. There it still happens. It happens
for
hour
10
after
to
hour.
18 hours.
Exactly. And you go there and you're like, okay, people are living here, and then you move a little further and there are people who don't even have the electricity, don't have this concept.
Exactly.
So there's lots done and there's lot needs to be done, and it's really appreciated how you guys are doing so many things. I'm overwhelmed by hearing all of them. So you mentioned industries and different companies going towards green energy, and it's really appreciated. I've seen big brands like Sapphire. Sapphire went with solar with us with a 5.1 megawatt massive. We've seen their outlets also going solar. So we recently did a session on that as well, of how it's need of hour, how it's not only for the climate, it's like considering the country's economy and the political turbulence, it's going to help them as well. So what's your idea on that? How do you think that industries, the mega industries, can play a major role in covering up the green energy deficit of Pakistan? And why is it not happening? What's the shortcoming?
I think we are not exploring the potential of the different natural resources that are available to us.
Definitely.
Now, if you see the coastal belt, it's about 180 kilometers roughly from Gharo onwards. So, and there's about a potential of 50,000 megawatts that can actually be produced if we are going to put wind turbines there.
Exactly.
So is the case with solar. And these private companies have produced so much energy through their green energy channels, and they're putting about 3,000 megawatts into the grid already.
Exactly.
So there is work happening. It's not that it's not happening, but yes, it's a gradual change. But yes, the government has to make sure that they cut down on the taxes on the equipment that is required for the green energy in terms of solar, in terms of wind. The taxes are high, and also the maintenance costs and subsidies needs to be given on these, because you need to promote them. The government itself said that 60% would be renewable energy by 2030 under the NDCs. They committed that. How are they going to do that? They said that 30% we are going to shift to e-vehicles. We have an electric vehicle policy as well, by the way. So we did that also, but at the same time, the implementation process is very slow due to the political instability, also due to the lack of resources, and the prices and the costs going really high. So that is something that we need to sort of focus on.
But still, I would really like to appreciate the government that the changes are coming up. We've seen that it's like I'll use the word zero se hum log 50 tak to I guess pahunch gaye.
Yeah, but there are staggering figures. There are like figures that we need to know that about 75% of Pakistan's greenhouse gas emissions are from the energy sector. Energy production.
Exactly.
So, and we are still dependent on fossil fuels.
Definitely, because
there's coal now, the new plants. And heavy and biggest plants in Asia. So there are coal plants, and the global community is shifting towards renewable energy. And we are still, hooking up to these and fossil fuels, and
we do get the concept of indigenous fuels, but still it's like you can't put the climate on risk this much.
Exactly.
But the 500 megawatt project at Thar, I guess, in Muzaffargarh areas, that's really coming through, and I hope that's good. Plus the new regime, that's the CTBCM, I think, in which people can do it themselves. They can wheel out the energy as well. I think that's going to be game changer.
I think because then people will be more interested.
Exactly. But then again, the funding issue stands there. So let's see. We're just looking at the brighter side of the picture. So moving on. Coming back to the climate awareness part of it. So I always talk about this, it cannot be something massive. You cannot just stand up and say like, okay, the country is going green, we're all going to go to renewables. It's not going to work like that. So there's one factor, that's the climate education, and it's not really floating out in the country. I believe that hamare yahan still ye mindset hai ki if you go to your parents and you're going, I'm going to study environmental sciences, there's going to be a crack on that. So what's your viewpoint on that? How do you think that climate awareness is something that needs to be translated into our education? Do you think that needs to be going to a curriculum? What do you think? What needs to be done?
So I think climate education needs to begin at the grassroots level, so at the school level. And we also were a part of devising and giving recommendations for developing that curriculum for Punjab till the primary education. So, but that is still in process, of course. But yes, from the WWF platform, because we are an environmental advocacy organization as well, our mandate is to educate people in every way, from communities to government to private sector to the marginalized communities, the vulnerable communities, because our presence is from the north, up north, from Gilgit till the coast, till Gwadar. So we've got offices in the country spread in like 30 different locations, running various projects and programs.
Wonderful.
So, but at the same time, I think it's pertinent to say here that, climate education needs to be inculcated at the school level and the college level. So those two things we're covering through the youth engagement program and the school outreach program. So the school outreach program, we have different campaigns for school children and presentations. So it's a whole learning process and learning curve that we have. Then for the lower grade students, we have Spellathon, which is a flagship campaign. It is now more than 25 years old campaign. Now we have a Spellathon generation actually. So that used to be a dictation competition, but we used to devise environmental storybooks with difficult words and vocabulary, and children used to have dictation competitions.
Oh, that's so great.
Yeah, and there was a huge learning for children from grade 1 till grade 8. It was crazy, and it's still running successfully in the country. So that was one way of educating. But when you come to the employers and employee level, yes, through different other programs like ILES, which is the International Labour Environmental Standards. So under that program, under the Green Office, under the Sustainable Agriculture program, we're not only educating the factory owners, the employers about environmental sustainable practices, but also farmers. So I because our work is spread across. So we're working with the food and agriculture sector. So we educate them regarding climate action and what they need to do in their scope of work in terms of sustainability and environment. So our work is pretty spread. Recently, because the public sector is usually considered as the most unaware sector, there's a couple of people and they're not like educated. They don't have the right educated backgrounds. No offense, but at the same time they are lacking that information on environment. So as WWF, since we were the implementing partner for the NDCs also, we conducted various environmental stakeholder workshops, and it was crazy, and people were like, we didn't know about NDCs, we didn't know about Paris Agreement. Okay, so how do we lower the emissions? What can we do? Okay, we can switch off the lights. Then how can we, how does that impact? So there were strange questions, but I think we got to know that the public sector is very, very receptive, and they were very, very open. And even under the third national communication, when we are doing, because the component of awareness, education, knowledge sharing is under WWF's mandate in this project. So we are educating the public sector in all the 4 provinces, and we are disseminating climate bulletins. We are also creating, right now we will be soon releasing the online version of the environmental booklet, which will have the basic information and the in-depth information about stats, about climate change, how we can reduce that, and recommendations.
Wonderful. I'm amazed, and surely there was so much you guys were doing that need to be brought to the public. I was unaware of so many things that you guys are doing. It's even new for me as well, although I'm very connected to the environment and all that. So you mentioned the initiatives with children as well, and you mentioned the turning off light feature. So I remember something, it was recently, I think, Earth Hour. So we celebrated that, and I was telling my nieces and nephew, and I was like, this is Earth Hour, we need to turn off the lights. And their instant reaction was, okay, you can turn off the light, lekin TV on rahega. So it's like, this is the concept for kids.
But I think we need to tell them the importance. The part of awareness needs to be built at the foundation level. Why do we have to turn off the lights? So we need to inform people about that, the general public about. We have a very strong presence on the social media handles, through Instagram, through Insta stories. We're mostly coming on FM 91, who's our social media partner. We do a lot of shows for creating advocacy and environmental awareness. So that is something that is ongoing.
Perfect. It's so good to know about all the initiatives, and I really appreciate. And considering we kind of are the company which are working for renewable energy, we also have a CSR initiative, that is DSG Eco Squad. So this is a beautiful concept of one of its initiatives that we go to since we go major industries. So at the commissioning of every project, we tell them that yearly you're going to reduce this much carbon emissions. And we also do a plantation campaign there, so that people know that we are doing something for the environment as well. So I think together we can definitely make a change, and we'll be there to help anytime you need us. And you're much appreciated, and it's been a pleasure having all this conversation, hearing all the positive things. So lastly, I'll just have one of your message for the people watching, that since we were talking about how this needs to start at grassroots level, parents at the home need to start telling their children they need to make the sustainable choices for the greener future for the coming generations. So what is your advice to the people watching, how we can start small to make a big change?
Okay, so here I'd like to say that sustainability is something that when we are using anything, any resource, we should use it in a way that we leave a sufficient amount for the future generation. Then only it can be sustainable. I've seen people grocery shopping. Let's get the carton for the Nestle small bottle.
Yes.
Why don't you have that 18-liter gallon that is there in your house and fill it with jugs? What is with this commercial issue? Because I think people, we need to go back to the simplicity in life, you know, the way we used to be in our past, you know. We used to have the reusable bags and the plastic reusable plastic baskets जिसके अंदर हम अंडे सब्जी सब कुछ लाते थे. अब तो हर चीज के लिए that polyethylene bag, it's a disaster literally. So वहां से आप स्टार्ट करें कि अपने जो लिफाफे हैं उसका तो बंद करें ना. ये खाड़ी ने 30 रुपए का बैग लगा दिया, गत्ते का बैग है मगर 30 रुपए का है, गत्ता भी कहीं से आ रहा है. So basically whatever packaging material you are bringing in वो सब कचरा है. Say no to packaging material. Excess package मत लें आप. And buying in bulk is something जो कि सब आप कर सकते हैं घर से. Now this message is something which can be applied by all masses. So and energy of course क्योंकि हमारे bills आते हैं. So going on to you know LEDs and DC inverters, ये common चीजें हैं जो अब practice हो रही हैं offices में भी और घरों में भी. People want to opt for those. And some people जिन्होंने घरों में भी अब solar लगाया हुआ है, they are making sure that you know it's working. And because उससे बिल के ऊपर बहुत इफेक्ट आता है literally. It is in my house also and we literally don't even know कि लाइट कब गई. और ये लोड शेडिंग बहुत ज्यादा गर्मियों में हुई है और रमजान में भी माशाल्लाह से हो रही है. Being in Lahore, so I live in that part of Lahore जहाँ पर लोड शेडिंग बहुत है. But I think we need to make better choices and environmental friendly choices.
Exactly. Thank you so much, Nazifa. It's been a pleasure. And for the people watching, I think it's the takeaway that start small and together with choti cheezein milke, they'll make a big impact. Start teaching your children the basic things, that how a certain act is affecting the environment, how we need to do something, how we need to leave a better earth for our coming generations. So start making good choices, sustainable choices today for yourself and for the coming generations. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back with another episode soon. Allah Hafiz.